gosh, it's been way too long since I've uploaded. I think it's been like a month, maybe. Way too long. I'm sorry. I just honestly didn't have the motivation to make videos, but I'm kind of getting that spark again. Weirdly, because it's the off season in pretty much every sport. But I want to talk a little bit about what happened last night between Jake Paul and Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. This isn't going to be a super long video. I just kind of want to give some quick thoughts. I'll do a separate video of who I think is next for Jake Paul and kind of list out some opponents. Some that he already called out last night, some really big names, some heavyweights, some cruiserweights. Yeah, to me, last night was a decent match. But, okay, let's just get into it. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., Jake Paul, let's talk about it. Okay, let's start off with a positive. I think this is the best that Jake Paul has looked in his career. Now, I'm not saying that he's ready to go fight a world champion. I don't think so, and I like Jake Paul. I don't think he's ready for that. If I were to be completely honest, I think he needs a few more fights, and I have some names that I think that he could fight to prove that he's ready for a world championship fight. But to me, he did the best in terms of picking his shots wisely, going to the body. Man, he threw a lot of body shots, and you could tell that it was really, really wearing on Chavez Jr. To me, the disappointment was just Chavez was not ready to fight. And he's been this way for the last couple of fights. He shows up, dances around, and then he'll turn it on in the later rounds and be like, oh, I gave it my best. Like, no, you did not give it your best. You waited till round 8 to finally start throwing punches. And you really didn't do that much in the last 2 rounds either. So, to me, Jake just was a better boxer, and it was clear as day. I wanted to try to get a prediction out before the fight, but I had to buy a certain piece of equipment for my phone to be able to use my microphone again. And I bought the wrong one, so couldn't get a prediction video out. It kind of sucked, but here we are doing a little bit of a recap. So, obviously, you instantly had the rigged accusations coming out against Jake's fights. You don't have to like Jake Paul, but like to say that it's rigged is just the dumbest thing in the world. That is highly, highly illegal. MVP would go out of business. DAZN would go out of business. Jake Paul would get sued and would go bankrupt. It's highly illegal to rig fights. Like, I don't dispute that maybe back in the day there was some rigging, but nowadays when everything is as tight as it is, like, you can't rig a boxing fight, in my opinion. Like, those punches aren't rigged. You look at Jake, you don't have to like him as a boxer. You don't have to like him as a person. You don't have to think he's a great fighter. But just look at the way he was throwing. He's not, like, holding his punches back. He's hitting Chavez hard. That's another thing I want to talk about is Jake Paul was throwing heavy shots. And he was putting good combinations together, which is something that old Jake Paul against, like, Tyron Woodley, Ben Askren, those kind of fights, he didn't do. He was big, just jab right or just a right or whatever. Jake has become a much better combination puncher. He would throw the uppercut, the left hook, jab, right hook to the body. He was throwing good clean combinations, and I think that that's something that his new camp post the Tommy Fury fight has really honed in on. That whole camp with Third Chambers, Jalen Love still in there, and then obviously you have Larry Wade. I think they've been heavy on Jake's combinations. That's 2 things that, to me, they have fixed is Jake's combos and Jake's shots to the body. He's throwing heavy body shots, which a lot of his opponents will guard up like this. So if they're going to guard up like that, the body's going to be wide open. Take what your opponent gives you. Don't go head hunting all the time. If he's constantly guarding your head, then you're not going to be able to land to the head. Go to the body, and then once he starts feeling those body shots, which eventually you're going to start feeling if you get hit to the body enough, your guard's going to come down here, boom, your head becomes wide open. So take what you can give, or take what you can get. And Jake's done that really well the last couple of fights. So those are things I think he's improved on. 2 things I think Jake needs to work on is his defense and his cardio. Now, I think his cardio was big in parts because of how the fight went. It dragged a lot. There's a lot of clinching. Chavez didn't want to fight, so I think Jake was doing a lot of just throwing, and that gasses you out, in my opinion, more than the little back and forth that you'll have in a normal boxing fight, where you're throwing, then you're on the defensive end, you're resting a little bit, you get a little bit of everything. When you have someone that doesn't want to throw back, like Chavez Jr. didn't want to throw back last night, you're swinging. And you could tell Jake was throwing big, heavy shots the first 7 to 8 rounds. In the last couple of rounds, he gassed. Now, that's normal. At a cruiserweight level, you're going to have people tire out a little bit like that. But those are the championship rounds, and sometimes those rounds are going to be the makes or breaks of your fight. So I think Jake needs to work on his cardio a little bit. I know it's easier said than done. And I know he trains hard, and I know he has hard camps. And that's something that'll come with time and experience. Like, the more fights like that he gets under his belt, I think that'll be a cardio that he kind of develops along with his work in training camp. And then the second thing, his defense. Like, Jake is a dog. Like, whether you like him or not, he is a dog. He wants to fight. He's just not very defensively responsible. Like, thankfully, someone like Chavez just didn't hurt him because of his age, his natural size. I don't think Chavez brought a lot of power. Jake even said after the fight that none of the shots really hurt him, and I believe that. But it doesn't mean that they weren't landing, because when Jake got tired, he did not become very defensively responsible at that point. And Chavez started to land. Like, you have to be defensively responsible for the whole duration of the fight. Look, I'm not saying I'm a boxing expert or anything. I just like the sport, and I'm kind of just talking what I'm thinking. So I think Jake needs to tighten up his defense a little bit. He needs to learn to get out the pocket, which he was definitely doing good at times. I think when he got tired, I think it just kind of dwindled a little bit. His hands dropped a good bit, which that's just a recipe for disaster. Just ask Tyron Woodley, because Woodley did the same thing to Jake and he got slept. And I'm not saying Chavez was going to be the one to sleep Jake, but if Jake goes up against one of these world champions like Zordo Ramirez, Badu Jack, or if he even dares to fight Anthony Joshua, he drops his hands like that when he gets tired, he's going to get flatlined. So definitely something he's got to work on, is being more defensively responsible. He's good with it in the early rounds, but he's got to get a little bit better with that. And I think also with his cardio building up, it'll allow him to keep his hands up when he needs it. So really all that's a combination of like him pacing himself, which I think he's done better at. He used to be way worse at it, and he's gotten better. You can tell with him pacing throughout the fight. He just throws a lot of shots. And again, he didn't have the best dance partner with Chavez, who kind of just did this for 8 rounds. I mean, golly, Chavez was an absolute embarrassment. He should be embarrassed of his performance. To have the Chavez last name and to do that, you could tell Senior was frustrated. And I would have been too if I was Senior. That was not a good performance. Should be embarrassed and ashamed of himself. But if you're Jake, you can't do much with that besides throw. So that's what Jake did. So it was just a funky fight, I think. Hopefully in his next fight he has a better dance partner. But overall, I thought Jake did well. I thought Chavez was embarrassing. Some fights that he said that he wanted, Zordo Ramirez, man, that's tough. That's a world champion, a cruiserweight world champion. It's crazy to think about the fact that we're here. Jake Paul said he wanted to be a world champion. Here we are. Is he at the level to where he's ready to win a world championship? I don't think so. But like, we're starting to have those conversations, and it's crazy to me. Zordo, can he beat him? I don't think so, but who knows, man? Who knows? Like, Jake said Zordo looked slow, and I'm not saying that like Zordo looked bad slow, but I kind of see what Jake is saying a little bit. Zordo wasn't as fast and as snappy. He wasn't throwing as many shots, in my opinion, as he did against Chris Billum-Smith. I thought he had a much better fight against Chris Billum-Smith, but it's still Zordo Ramirez. He's still 48-1. I think Zordo would probably outbox him for the whole duration of the fight. Zordo has been moving up and up. Finally, he's at cruiserweight. He hasn't knocked anyone out at cruiserweight yet, so I really don't know if he would knock Jake Paul out. I just think he would probably outclass him a good bit and probably win a unanimous decision. AJ, man, Jake Paul's not beating Anthony Joshua. Not yet, at least. That's too much of a size disadvantage, a power disadvantage. Jake would probably be a little bit faster than AJ, surprisingly, but like, man, you get hit by one of AJ's shots, it's not going to look pretty. If Jake actually wants to go for a world championship, I really think his best chance of that is Badu Jack. I think Badu Jack is still a world champion. If he's not, I'm sorry. I would actually not mind seeing that fight. I think Badu Jack would be a good fight. I think he's a little bit older, but definitely would give him more of a good fight than Chavez Jr. Like, he'd give him a tough fight. Like, I'm not even just saying just a harder fight. He'd give him a really tough fight. A fight that Badu Jack would still be way favored to win. But if you're asking me who I think Jake should fight, to me, the Tommy Fury rematch is the one to go for. And I know Tommy is difficult when it comes to negotiations. And I know Jake's been wanting that fight. But if you can make it happen, man, it'd be a good look. Tommy's your age. He's got a similar record. Tommy's 11-0. Jake is 12-1, I think, at this point, which is crazy that Jake has more pro fights than Tommy now. I think that's the best fight to make. Go and get that L and turn it into a W, and then you can start thinking about the World Championship fights. Or a little man across the pond, by the name of Vidal Riley. I think Jake would get whooped by Vidal Riley. And again, I like Jake. I think he would get beat by Vidal. But if you want to prove yourself that you're world championship ready, I think Vidal would be the perfect person to show that against. And if Jake somehow beat Vidal Riley, I think everyone would understand now that Jake is ready for a world championship. Do I believe he is, and do I believe he would beat Vidal? No. But I think that's the perfect fight where you're not fighting a world champion, but if you win it, it's no doubt about it, you're ready for a world championship. So to me, either make the Tommy rematch or maybe go after Vidal Riley. Those are my opinions. But if you guys enjoyed this fight, enjoyed this video, if you like boxing, sports, whatever, like and subscribe. Comment down below some video ideas. We're going to talk a little bit more in depth about Jake's career going forward, get into some other sports. But until then, we'll see you on the next video.